right, late night Sunday sesh. Gonna try to keep it a little bit short. Got some big stuff for you though. Want to address a comment last episode, and I want to cover a couple concepts that I think are important to talk about because I think a lot of people are going to be confused if I don't talk about them. So first of all, let's address a comment from last time. I love it when you guys comment. Please keep doing it. Especially, if it's something you don't really agree with, put the counter argument in there. It's not that as fun if it's everybody just agrees and we, just shake hands about how much we agree with each other. Sorry, let me stepping out of the scene there. Okay, so one thing, let's talk about the comment. I guess I'll leave the name of the person out. I don't know if that matters so much, but
you know who he is.
Yeah, I mean, you could just look at the last episode. Actually, it was on the Facebook channel. For the YouTube folks, I do simulcast on Facebook Live for a brief time, or it's been whole episodes last couple times I've done it. And we'll see. Those of you joining on Facebook, I would go onto the YouTube channel. You can leave live comments. I mean, you can leave them in Facebook. I heard it's a little bit tricky to actually leave a comment, not just your emoticons, but I don't know. You tell me. I would go to YouTube though, because you can hear music and you don't get to see the graphics. So to this show, we are going to include some graphics and also a video and stuff like that. So let's go ahead and get going because, like I said, it's late and I want to just cover some stuff and then we'll do some more on the Wednesday session, on the normal live session. Okay, so here we go. So we must have been talking about. I was probably critiquing capitalism, which I normally do because, I believe in a free market, but that's where the big distinction is. The difference between a free market where we're just exchanging stuff voluntarily, like everybody describes capitalism, and capitalism, which is like Catholicism, but for capital. Think about it that way. Catholicism is being a Catholic, and the system of the Catholic Church and all of that entails, and the power that it wields is all part of Catholicism. Capitalism is the same way. We're talking about not just like you made a wicker basket and it's better than your neighbor's wicker basket, so you take a larger share of the market. That's neat. That's competition. We all go through. That's normal, and that's always credited for all these advancements and whatever. Even though the government does a lot of research too, so it's not always just the private sector only in a lot of things. And plus, really, some stuff that from the private sector is like freaking frivolous crap. And you say, well, is it really frivolous if someone's paying for it? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. If I'm volunteering all my time building homeless shelters and I have zero money, does that mean I'm more or less validated than someone selling child porn or hosting child porn server hub and getting millions of dollars? Who's worth more to society? If we say, oh, well, the money tells us. Well, and obviously we know who's worth more to society, right? And is that really the society we want to live in? And that's free market, but that's also part of the duality in a way of capitalism, because it doesn't always mean it's right. It doesn't mean, like, if someone's so desperate they sell their children, at what point does it stop? The market doesn't run by benevolent powers. They always say that the capitalist apologists always talk about the benevolent hand of the market, but it's not benevolent. It's as benevolent as like a gun is benevolent. Sure, like your M1 Garand in World War II is pretty benevolent when you're killing Nazis, right? But the AR-15 or M1 Garand or whatever you use to go blow up a school or shoot up a school, that's not benevolent. So capitalism works in that same way. So when you come into let's say, for instance, I don't know, you send the CIA to overthrow a democratically elected official in that, the people have elected, and they said, hey, we're tired of outside companies and countries coming in and using our people and land and abusing it and then putting us in debt. And now we're basically in the entire country. Imagine that, an entire country in indentured servitude to basically vulture capitalists and our government, etc. Really beholden to these corporations, right? And some of it, if we really go back through time, some of it is either racism, believe it or not, it's crazy, or it's just plain the president needed to make a move so he can impress the Republicans. Like, that's that stupid. We'll invade a country, overthrow their leadership, kill their people because it's a small country and no one cares, and who's going to save them anyway? That's what we do, right? And remember the bodega owner. Remember the mafia dad, right? And who are we? Are we the 2-year-old who loves his mafia dad no matter what, or even grows up to be the 35-year-old who defends his mafia dad for killing the bodega owner and revels in all of the freedoms he has because his dad will kill anybody that doesn't like what they're doing? I get discounted rates on this and that and whatever else, because everyone's afraid of my dad. So I sort of like this arrangement, right? And so that's sort of, I think, what most Americans are doing right now. Like, hey, I like fruit. I like cheap gas. I sort of like getting stuff cheap from China. I sort of like the idea that I could open an Amazon store and buy shit cheap from Bangladesh. Yeah, I like that. And so, it just perpetuates itself. So let's get into this comment. But I just wanted to make that distinction, because a lot of times we aren't making distinction that the power of accumulated capital to not only manipulate the government to do the bidding of accumulated capital, but also to manipulate other governments and other people with that capital in order to basically have your way. Because remember, what is the universal capitalist equation? The universal, right? Time equals what? Money. So when you have money, you automatically have time. And when your kids are starving, what don't you have? Time. So there's a power imbalance, right? That's capitalism. When you could take a whole town and have them appease you because you're that powerful. Like, look up some recent contractual issues with some cities and Jeff Bezos, and that will get and workers and how much they're getting paid or that kind of thing. And Jeff Bezos, and look at the union workers in other countries that are striking for Amazon because of working conditions and these things. That the same reasons why people were striking way back in the day when kids were dying in coal mines. Like fully believe there is a group of people in our society that would be totally fine doing that because it's personal liberty. If my kid wants to go down to the coal mine at 13 and go get some black lung, he should be able to do that for his family because he's an American and we've got liberties. Ain't no government going to tell my 13-year-old son he can't go down in that damn coal mine and do it. Right? There's a chunk of our population that I fully believe that would love to see that happen. And if Trump said that's what we should do, they would defend the right for 13-year-olds to go into coal mines and work. Again, we've done it before. Not even 13-year-olds, 6-year-old kids probably. They're doing it in freaking the Congo and crap, trying to get lithium for our cell phone batteries. That's the thing. We export those problems. And we're totally fine with it. I have a neighbor that said, I was asking him about our interventions. It was a couple of years ago, in fact, interventions in Libya and Syria. And I was like, is it worth it? The blood and treasure that we lose on account of these kinds of maneuvers, is it worth it? And he's like, well, as long as I get cheap gas and it maintains our standard of living as Americans, I say, we got to do what we got to do to secure our national security and freedoms, man. It's like you getting cheap gas as your freedom. Well, it's our economy, man. It runs off of that. So for so people can die we can attack sovereign nations and take over resources so that our economy will run. That's the capitalist system, right? It needs help to run, apparently. Is that what he's saying? That we need to do these kinds of things in order for the capitalist world to survive, because in the midst of contradictions, that we have continual consumption, right? An expected increase in consumption, right? On a finite planet with finite resources. And it's less about us having scarce resources and we need to be like super careful about it per se. It's that the idea that we can run rampant doing it. And it's almost like this idea, like if I don't do it, someone else will, so I might as well do it. So if you're going to get screwed, it might as well be by me, and I might as well get rich now because someone else will maneuver in and do it. Anyway, all right. So let me tell you about. Let's talk about this comment here. James, again, capitalism. Excuse me. Oh, I know what this is. I was talking about competition, like a competitive society. If we're competing against each other, I'm going to be overtaking you, and it's me versus you, or whatever, a dog-eat-dog world, whatever, and everyone's getting all stressed out because, oh my God, if I don't do this thing, I'm gonna lose my job or whatever. Some people think, well, that's great. That motivates people to succeed. And I can see where that comes in. But at the same time, it also creates an undue it creates an undue pressure if you're really trying to get something done. And so it's anyway, it gets to being a competitive situation, especially if you get to the point where when you're trying to compete in the system, if where you fall in the competition equates to you basically dying in the street, if some people are okay with that idea, then, or not having any health care, or not having basically some things that you would think a communal species would do for each other as a community, then that's competitive. It's not cooperative, and that causes problems. Okay, so let's go back to the thing. Capitalism is cooperation. At the end of the day, what you mean by cooperation is compelling other people to do things that you, quote unquote, want them to, and that they don't, quote unquote, want to do. Leftist ideology is rape of free people. Capitalism is conservative sex. Conservative sex. I think there are many people who are tired of the leftist rape culture. Now, that's pretty bold statements there. I think this left-right paradigm, I mean, it's like this boogeyman. These were all the right, quote unquote, self-identified right-wingers. And that's the thing, the identify. People call me liberal or left when I'm telling them about being more cooperative and that workers should have rights, and that it's important that workers be looked at as a partner, not just as an expendable commodity, which this commodity fetish that the guys like this that would leave a comment like this generally have, that anything could be distilled down into numbers, including human beings, and that you should just extract what you can. And any other reason not to extract should be, in the long run, an overall benefit to extraction. Like, for instance, I'll give you extra workers' rights, but I might want to pay you less. Or I'll give you extra workers' rights just so I can compete a little bit better in the sphere. Now, you might say, well, look at that, James. They're doing a little bit extra workers' rights, so, there's a competition. And you're right. That's true, and it can happen. What happens, though, is these capitalists don't just exist in little bubbles. They get to go sit down and eat dinner together, and they go and smoke cigars together, and they go to Bohemian Grove together and watch each other jerk off or something, so they have dirt on each other or some other skull and bones shit, right? And then, I mean, I'm going conspiracy level, but I mean, I don't know. It makes sense, and I think we'll get into that another time. I'm not a conspiracy theorist quite the same as some folks, but anyway, Look up Bohemian Grove if you don't know what that is. Do you know what that is, producer TJ? Bohemian
Yes,
Grove?
I do.
He knows what it is. Yes,
Yes,
special rituals there.
I am the conspiracy theorist.
He is the conspiracy theorist. So, yeah, so that's not what I'm talking about. I don't know what he's talking about because we already have socialist programs or cooperative programs. Our whole military is a cooperative program. Police, we always have to do this ad nauseum, right? Explain to these people that are so anti-government that they depend on the freaking government all the time, right? And hey, guess what? Sometimes when you privatize stuff, things go to shit. Like, for instance, fire departments used to be privatized. And guess what? If you couldn't pay for the fire to be put out, what the hell do you think happened to your fucking house? Now, do you think in a community environment, a communal species of being, that would be a good idea? Oh shit, your hut's on fire. Well, you can't pay, so fuck off. Well, what's going to happen to your neighbor's hut, possibly? And that the other neighbor's hut. So now it's like, you know what? Screw this private firefighter shit. It's something we need, right? We don't want a mercenary army per se because who knows who they're really beholden to. So we're not going to go do that. We're going to have a national standing army. Well, which I actually think is questionable whether or not that's even right. Because think about this. There was a recent article, is actually a conservative article from Axios, I believe, self-identified conservative. And they mentioned the standing army that we have and the fact that interactions between not army, but standing military force, not just army, standing military force that we have, that we, it's an employed military service, not like a draft per se, right? As far as we don't have the draft anymore. And there's an argument to be had about why the draft is good. Now, you guys might be like, oh my God, you're psycho. Well, it's not that I'm psycho. The reason why the draft is bad is because we have wars that are committed by psychos, and no matter what, you get drawn into them. But what can happen, though, is when your kid might get sent to war for no good reason, and they have no choice, then it becomes sort of like an issue, right? Here's the other thing. Who are you beholden to? The military folks take an oath to the Constitution, but if they were doing something against the Constitution, but their superior told them to, would they necessarily be insubordinate? Some would say, oh yeah, it's our duty. Well, I don't know, because there's a lot that don't. And let's say you're in an unconstitutional war that we shouldn't be in, a conflict that we shouldn't be in at all. So you're already doing an unconstitutional act. Now you say, well, the politicians told me to. Does that mean anything? Do you think the politicians give a fuck about the Constitution? Right? So if you were a draftee and you were committed to your country, but you're like, dude, I want to defend my country. I don't want to go to the jungle and fight a bunch of people that I don't know for freedoms that aren't connected to me. What exact freedom were they fighting for in Vietnam? In America. Like, oh, to save them from communism. Okay, well, how many did you kill to save them from communism? It becomes this sort of trope. We're doing it again. We've done it in Iraq. We do it everywhere in the world. In fact, I was talking to a guy that has a pretty long military service, and we were talking about the fight against fascism and how, ironically, the U.S., after defeating fascism, introduced fascism to the rest of the developing world. Topple the democratically elected leader, put in a dictator. That way our corporations get easy access to resources, get easy access to labor, get easy access to corrupt politicians or whatever. We installed them anyway. And then once they become useless to us, we put in the next one. We do it everywhere. And if you don't believe me, go research it. In fact, I might have a whole episode. I've got, I don't know if you guys trust Harvard or not, but there's a whole list, 41 interventions that we've been in South America alone. The Australian military did a little research doc from basically the 1800s to 2004. It was like pages and pages and pages of conflicts. And it's just that we were involved in, that our military was involved in somewhere in the world, whether it was really to protect someone or not. And a lot of these can be really like shown to be not necessarily needed for the American people. Anyway, when he's talking about leftist ideology and blah, 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 like it's these straw men, right? What's a straw man argument? So some of you philosophy majors know, basically you're creating an enemy, the straw man. How hard is it to knock over a scarecrow or straw man? A man of straw. Easy, right? So if I construct my man of straw, then it's easy to knock it over. Right? Oh, leftists, they want to rape you and take your shit. Nobody's fucking said that. Or do you feel, does he say the same exact shit about the military? Does he say the same thing about the police? Who the fuck pays their bills? Me, us. We do. We communally decided we needed this thing. And so we did this thing, right? We're like, oh, we probably should get firefighters. We probably should have teachers. We should have these things. And all of a sudden, there's like this disconnect. But I just don't understand. I just don't get it. Nobody said get rid of the free market. What people are saying is there has been a constant struggle. People have written about this. You don't even have to read what they've written to know what the fuck is happening. You just have to open your eyes and see that there's a power imbalance and it's getting taken advantage of. It's happened over and over in history. All you got to do is fucking look and see it. It's fucking clear as day. So clear. It's like ridiculously clear. In fact, I'm going to give you some more clarity. There's this really cool dude. What's his name? Mark Blythe, I believe. He was recently on the Michael Brooks show. And I want to show you something that I think will explain what kind of problems I'm talking about. I'm not talking, like I said, about your neighbor who makes better wicker baskets than you, causing you to go out of business. I'm saying if they get big enough to where they can hold you hostage and you have no recourse and they own like the city, that's fucked up. Right? It's the same kind of fucked up shit that you get from crazy fucked up communism, where the Politburo has all the power and they can fuck you, right? The corporations right now have a lot of power and they have power through the government and both of them can fuck you, right? So that's a problem, right? And then on top of that, we have a fucking bombastic, crazy moron. And I want to show, maybe that's a whole other show. But anyway, I mean, there's some laughable comments that I've seen on my Facebook of people. I'm just going to leave one thing before we start the Michael Brooks show thing. Just to tell you what kind of stuff we're talking about. What kind of veiled-eyed fanaticism we're talking about. So I remember I posted a meme on my Facebook, which I totally shouldn't do, but I don't know. It gives me fodder for this show. And I posted this meme about how Trump said something like he's more popular than Lincoln was. And then, you know, the main point of the meme and what people have been saying is like something like, oh my God, what kind of lies is he coming up with to talk about, you know, how popular he is and this and that. I mean, we weren't even polling back then and this and all this crap. And I'm thinking, well, you know, he's probably right. He's probably right. Lincoln presided over a civil war. Half the country is willing to kill the other half to make it happen. So, yeah, he's probably wasn't very popular. So do you think it was easy or hard to be more popular than him? Now, you could say, well, 50% of people must have liked him. Like, not really. Even in the North, he wasn't like necessarily Mr. Super Duper guy, right? Go look at the contemporary accounts of Lincoln. It wasn't necessarily like the super crazy popular guy for periods of time. And later on, you know, he becomes more popular as we look at him in legend, and he has some great speeches and things like that. But there was definitely a lot of sentiment that was not positive. Like I said, half of the country was willing to secede, right? So either way, it's just like a stupid thing to say. Why would you even say it, is my point. It's just stupid. It's just a show of his stupidity. So the response was that you just don't understand Trump's running or playing the media like a fiddle, running laps around them, constantly in their view, and just living in the minds of the media by saying he's just trolling them. Like, really? And that's why that's also why he talked about how the brain is the most important, more important than the mouth, but the brain, but both the brain and the mouth. I mean, I'll show the freaking quote at some point. I'm sure that's a show that's really an insight into his stable genius that he's just trolling us with, because he's always been such a stable genius until now that he's trolling us. Or wait, maybe he was trolling us his whole life, that he's really a stable genius, but he's just acting like an idiot, right? I don't mean to. And the thing is, he was born with a fucking silver spoon in his mouth. If I gave you the same money that he has, who knows? You could be richer than Jeff Bezos by now if you didn't fuck up as many times as him, right? Anyway, whatever. All right, so let's take a look at the Michael Brooks show. And what I want you to take the reason I'm showing you this is because Mark Blythe goes into what we talk about when we refer to neoliberalism, and what is its effect on where we are now in the contemporary time. All right, producer TJ, I'm done with my intro rant. Let's listen to a little bit of Mark Blythe. And for the Facebook folks, I don't think you can hear it, so switch over to the YouTube channel so you can hear this and join the combo.
Welcome to the Michael Brooks Show. Joining us now is Professor Mark Blythe. He's a scientist from Scotland, and he teaches at Brown University. Professor Blythe, we finally made this happen. Thanks for being here.
No, it's always a pleasure.
So you are known for two predictions: Trump 6 months out, Brexit 3 months out. I always predicted Trump would win the Republican primary. I thought that demographics might save Hillary Clinton, but I did think it would be closer than a lot of people anticipated, and that's because I was listening to people like you. I guess give us the why of those two predictions and the story, because it's not just, you have a story that this ties into.
Yeah, I mean, the story is, the bumper sticker version is, this has been 30 years in the making.
Yep.
And the way that we can think about things is they're either what social scientists call conjunctural shifts or structural shifts. In other words, they're just random shit that happened, or this has been a long time coming and it ain't going anywhere soon. And I subscribe to the latter version. So what's the structural shift? So imagine the world that we've had since 1980, with the big inflationary crisis of the 1970s. Now, why is inflation a crisis? It's a crisis because if you're an investor, if you're a capitalist, and I'll just say this here, I use this language, if that freaks people out because it makes me sound like a Marxist, I'm just trying to actually be terminologically accurate, right?
I know that you're not. I mean, I'm sure you will be soon after this conversation. You'll never miss a single show, but we are Marxists around here, so no trouble.
That's fine. But anyway,
yeah.
You're an investor. You've got an environment of inflation. You expect to make 5% real in your investment. Inflation goes up to 7%. You might as well take your money around the back of the house and burn it. And that was basically what.
So, like, I'm not necessarily a Marxist. I mean, and I don't think Michael Brooks is necessarily a Marxist. But we've read Marx and understand some of the critiques of Marx. The other thing about it, dang it, I had another point. Either way, keep in mind what he mentioned before too. 30 years in the making, right? It talks or speaks to the power of propaganda and how it can shape people's viewpoints on things like the economy and things like that. Anyway, you can back it just a couple seconds or 5-10 seconds.
an environment of inflation, you expect to make 5% real in your investment, and inflation goes up to 7%. You might as well take your money around the back of the house and burn it. And that was basically what was happening in the 1970s. Also, by the 1970s, Labour's share of national income had never been higher. And it was effectively costless to move from job to job, which meant that capital lost the ability to discipline labor, hence why labor strikes were up and all the rest of it right across the world. So the response of all this was the neoliberal revolution, which is Reagan and Thatcher in politics, and the whole new classical macro and economics, and theories about credibility and central banks and the importance of inflation control. And we built a whole new world. We reconfigured both the software and the hardware of capitalism, if you want to put it that way. Mm-hmm. But there was two bugs in the software. The first bug was when you financialize everything, when you let banks do what they do, because they've been locked up in their New Deal regulatory box for the previous 30 years, then they have a sin, and the sin is called leverage. So they will continue to make loans way past their asset security, the amount of assets they've got as security, until basically they fall over. And that's what happened in the financial crisis. Now, a way for people to think about this, bear with me for a minute, is when banks talk about assets, they're talking about what normal people call liabilities. They'll give you an example. I have a condo in Boston. That's my asset. To the bank, that's a liability. They're not landlords.
Oh, whoops,
they're interested.
Is my mic still?
In the mortgage that goes with that, which is their asset and my liability. Now, they all sum to zero. Now, when you realize this, when banks talk about having an asset footprint of $250 billion, what they're saying is they have made loans and bets on stuff out there, and they hope most of it will come back. And the more that they do this, the more loans they make. They tend to do this because interest rates are falling. And interest rates are falling through the 1990s into the 2000s. So they have to make money on a decline in spread. How do you do that? You pump up the volume, leverage. And that was the financial crisis. The second thing is, left on their own, without robust policies in terms of taxes and distribution, and these were the targets of the neoliberal revolution, then capitalism generates massive amounts of inequality. Right. And we've seen this right across the world. In the countries that basically protected their ability to produce public goods and collect taxes, your Germans, your Swedes, etc., have far lower levels of inequality than we do. Now, they still have populism. It's to do with migration and Europe and all that sort of stuff. We can get into that. Right. But just go with me here, right? So basically, you got leverage in the banking system, which everybody has been using to borrow money to pay for the middle-class lifestyle that they can no longer afford. Why? Because their wages have been stagnant since 1979. Why is that? Because inflation got squeezed out of the system and all the returns went to capital, which is the inequality skew. Now, in 2008, that whole system goes bang. And the central banks step in and basically bail out the assets and incomes of the top 20% of the income distribution everywhere. Because when you bail out the banks, you're talking about assets and liabilities again. And when you bail out banks, you're bailing out the assets and liabilities of the banks, which is my condo in Boston, some other guy's pension, somebody's portfolio of investments. And when you do that, you turn private debt into public debt, which is why there's a big spike in public debt through bailing the banks. And then you get people like Ryan who turn around and go, oh my God, look at that huge increase in debt. This is outrageous. We need to cut Social Security. It's like, well, right. You just bailed out Citibank, asshole. Why are you cutting Social Security? That doesn't have anything to do with it, but it's a nice, convenient narrative. So that sets up a politics whereby you've got people who have been living on borrowed time, borrowed credit, and stagnant wages for generations. Almost more than a generation, 60%, if not 70% of the US income distribution. Now, along comes a guy called Trump. And Trump walks to places that the mainstream Democrats won't even touch because they don't have proper lattes or whatever, right? And they go into these places.
So one thing I want to put in, just a couple commentary things. Number one, the dude's accent's pretty cool. You got to admit that, right? So some of the topics are sort of heavy. If you have some questions about how interest works and why and inflation and your return versus inflation and things like that he's talking about, and how financial gains and a financial bailout, for instance, is only applicable to a specific group of people, really. And then also this long-term creation that we're looking at. And if you have questions about it, please put them in the comments. And if we don't address them tonight, we'll talk about them. Well, we won't address them tonight because pretty much we're going to watch the rest of this. It's only a few more minutes, but it is sort of deep. So I want to show it because I think it's a really good synopsis of the storyline that leads us to the problems that I described earlier. All right, go ahead, producer TJ. Thank you.
And they say, hey, you know, these people that come in every 4 years and say, vote for me, hope, vote for me, change. How's that been working out for you? Because they've done shit, right? You guys, you used to have manufacturing jobs. The companies are doing well. They're doing better than ever, but basically they're all in China. And that's why the only thing that works in your town now is Walmart, because that's what happens when they import it back to you. So you can buy it with your declining wages. But don't worry, because we'll give you credit cards at usurious interest rates to make sure you can keep buying this stuff until your family goes increasingly bankrupt the minute you have a healthcare emergency. Right. And that's basically the story that Bernie on the left, and also to a certain extent Trump on the right, was telling. And that resonated with millions of people because that's true. So because of that, when you're living in this bubble, and my favorite example of the Democrat bubble was when the Podesta emails got hacked, somebody geolocated the names of the places that they speak about. Mm-hmm. The number one most frequently mentioned name in the Democratic emails was Martha's Vineyard.
Of course.
No, gets better. Number two.
What was number two?
East Hampton for the Hamptons.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Number three was, I think it was San Francisco. And then after that, it's LA, New York, Washington. And anywhere that people actually live in the blue wall was like 2 standard deviations out. So basically like miles down the curve.
Right.
So that's the imaginary. So basically people show up and say, hey, we're back to full employment. It's an aggregate number. Nobody lives in an aggregate. Who cares, right? Your wages are stagnant. Why are you all complaining? Oh, you're a bunch of deplorables, right? You can just see this beginning to snowball. Now, my favorite one for Brexit on this is months before it was going on, a couple of months before it was going on, 3 months, there was a rally up in Sunderland. And now Sunderland is a place where it's a poor town in the northeast. The main employer is Nissan Automotive, and they make all these cars that get exported to Europe. So the entire British establishment links arm in arm because, of course, Europeanization and globalization has been very good for them, the top 10%. So they all line up, Labour, Conservative, makes no difference. You can't do this. Our future lies with Europe. So they go to this place that sells shit to Europe, makes shit for Europe. And you think, well, come on, honestly, these guys will understand, right? And then this guy stands up and says, you realize, of course, there'll be a huge loss of GDP if we leave Europe. And one of the guys who makes the car shouts out, your GDP.
Right.
Now, from the point of view of
striking.
like, you know, yeah, exactly. You immediately get it, right?
Yeah.
Now, to the people that I spoke to when that came in, they're like, oh, that guy, what a moron, your GDP. Right?
Have you ever seen Idiocracy? What an idiot. Right,
totally,
right.
And it's totally that moment where you're just like, oh my God, you people literally do. That guy understands the distributional effects of capitalism better than you do.
Right.
With all your advanced degrees, because if there's a GDP growth, it's going to go into London. It's going to go to the people who already have assets. Every contract he's signing, he's working longer hours. He's getting more squeezed. He's getting monitored for his pee breaks, right? And you're like, oh, you have to stay in this. This is awesome. Well, it might be awesome for you, but it's not awesome for him.
Positive.
And once you figure out,
think about that. Is that not true? Is there a squeeze that you're feeling where your raises and compensation aren't keeping up with inflation, where more duties are put onto you, where you're not getting paid for additional duties or additional tasks or whatever, or suddenly you get these extra temporary assignments or different things that make it a little bit worse to go to work. Now, some jobs aren't doing that, and those become really tough, and everybody tries to clamor to get on those, which is good for the employer if they have that kind of job. But the overall pressure of the system is to move everybody almost as a racket to so because like why, because they look at the market. For instance, recently recently, my girlfriend Erin was looking for a job, or she has a job, but she's just looking around, and she got a connection to get like an office manager position. It was an extremely complex office with all sorts of stuff. It was like medical office, right? It's a doctor office with multiple doctors, and it was like a $12 an hour job, and it required a degree. It's like, whoa, what? $12 an hour? And so it's less about whether or not they can hire the right people or the quality or whatever. I don't know what it is. It's just that, well, the market right now shows that I can pay X amount of money, and I'm probably going to get somebody that's willing to do it. And in fact, I could get a pretty high caliber person if I'm willing to sift through it and use whatever filters I need to on Indeed, so I don't have to waste my time talking all the yutzes, right? All right, so only like one more minute, I think, of this, and then I think it's done. Go ahead, TJ.
That this is the common story, particularly across the kind of Anglo-Saxon developed world. The European story is slightly different because of the neuralgia over migration in particular. But
Right.
you've got basically stagnant incomes, life chances have been shredded, 20% of people have made off with 80% of the returns. Within that 20%, 20% of the 20% have really made off with 60% of everything. Astonishing levels of inequality. And basically, people are broke and they've had enough and they don't believe a word anyone's saying anymore. So once you tap into that as a 30-year structural story, you kind of get why where we are. And you also get why Italy, the Italian election, oh my God, what a surprise. It was like, really? Come on, guys, I've been telling you this for 2 years now. This is the way things are. This is the new normal. Deal with it. The Democrats, the mainstream Democrats, they're dead. They don't even realize it yet. It's like the German Social Democrats. They're signing their own death warrant by continuing to support policies which have eviscerated their support and impoverished their supporters. And until they recognize that, there's nothing left for them.
Well, there's no question about that. And I think that
Okay, so that is a good synopsis of what's going on with this neoliberal paradigm. And in fact, if you're sort of confused about what we're talking about with neoliberalism, think Reagan, think Thatcher. This extreme hard right, like I said, commodification of everything. The market has an answer for everything. Charity even becomes a market and in of itself, and a profit-driven market. Even nonprofits find ways to weasel money to the right people. So it's just a philosophy that's going through our society. And the guy that wrote that comment about the leftist rape culture and this and that embodies that to a large degree, and it's so crazy that I don't know if he considers himself a temporarily disenfranchised capitalist who's going to someday be able to manipulate his own people and to extract from his own people, or I don't know. I think people just need something to stand against, so they make up crap that makes them feel better, and that's really what's going on. Because, like I said, nobody said get rid of the free market. It's just let's bring back labor unions. Let's bring back labor rights. Let's not trample our own citizenry when all we got to do is find a. And when I say equitable, I'm not saying everybody gets equal distribution. I'm saying if production goes up and profits go up, the labor should also be able to participate in that. And you could say, well, they could buy stocks. Another capitalist trope, right? You can buy stocks. What do you need in order to buy stocks? So if you're getting paid $6 an hour or whatever the minimum wage is wherever you are, $8 an hour, and you're barely surviving and scraping along, how much money do you have for stocks? And plus, if you don't really know how to run, do your stuff, where are you going to go? You can't afford a financial advisor. Like the 401k system, that whole 401k idea is like the biggest scam on Americans ever. Because think about this. When a rich person has their portfolio of assets, who runs it? Do they necessarily run it? Nah, they don't. Let me let you in the secret. They don't. Some people that got rich doing it because that's their fucking job, they did that. But the people that didn't do it as their fucking job, they've hired somebody They hired somebody and had them do it. Now, if you're poor, can you fucking hire somebody to do it? No. So do you feel confident enough to start making those moves with the but a little bit of money that you have, and plus your financial advisor will be like, well, you really don't have enough margin to invest this stuff. It'll be too risky. So I guess you're just fucked until whatever, right? And then you can say, well, my 401k is growing, it's in these mutual funds. What mutual funds? The ones that are beneficial to you or beneficial to the mutual fund company that is contracted with your employer? You see what I mean? And are you really at the point of when you have mortgages, your mortgages due, and your rent needs or whatever, your bills are coming, and you need to find a job? Are you going to go and look through every single layer of every single bit of every single job? Or are you just going to fucking apply to a job and keep trying because it's already a tedious, mind-numbing process to apply for a job, let alone 10? And now each job, if you go talk to a recruiter, ask them, how many applicants do you get for each entry-level job? Some of them are hundreds. Some of them would be thousands if they took some filters off. What is that telling you? Oh, it's a competitive job market. Yeah, because jobs suck. Now, some people, the petite bourgeoisie, that's what you are. Some of you guys in good, decent jobs that are above the, that are in a comfortable, what you would maybe call middle class or upper middle class, that aren't quite capitalists, that aren't capitalists, in fact, at all. They work for a capitalist. They're in middle management. They're making decent money. And they want to shit on everyone else and think that they deserve it more than anyone else. So these people can work as hard as they fuck. You can be a welder working away and sucking in all these fumes, or working in the oil field, doing some crazy shit that's really dangerous or whatever. And they'll say, well, I worked harder than you, so I should get paid more because I'm in middle management and I'm part of a big machine and they're paying me because that's what I'm worth. Well, who's to say? And you're like, well, the market. What is the market if it's not whatever capital decides? So anyway, there's a big chunk of something that I want to leave here so that we can always refer back to what I mean when we're talking about neoliberal policy, and what I mean by capitalism, not just free market exchange. That's not what I'm talking about. In fact, I don't ever want to take that away, except for maybe a couple things. Not even take it away. I'm saying to have an alternative that we don't have a profit extraction motive, which, by the way, equals inefficiency. If someone is able to extract a profit, that means that someone else could have been paid more. So we might have got a better quality at the bottom. And so, for instance, if the government were doing it, we wouldn't have to have, as the people, that's what the government is. It's supposed to be us. It's supposed to be for us, right? If it was being run in the right way, it would reflect that. And we could say, okay, how much would it cost to do these things? And we need conservatives to look at it and say, no, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake. But the conservatives have lost their fucking minds. They're not just conservatives and fiscally responsible. They're fucking insane now. They're insane because we need them as a society. I don't remember if it was a Jefferson quote. They said something about, once the populace can vote in the largesse of the country, then they always will, or something like that. Nah. Look at how many people vote against their own interest. And that could be because of racism or xenophobia or something. I don't know. But they do it all the time. And look at how many people. The dude that got on my Facebook or the Facebook Live, he would be there standing around saying, "Oh, you shouldn't do this, or this should be cheaper." Good. That way we can have a government program. You can look at it and make sure that it's right. But no, they have this ideology that if it's done by the government, it's fucked up. Instead of trying to help it make sense and make it work, they think it should have a profit motive because they want to be the one to be able to extract from someone else. That's at that end of the day, they're like, well, if I stop it for them, then someday when I want to rape people and make them work for me for fucking shit, then I'm going to be the bad guy and I won't be able to do it. So better label them the good guy now, so that way when I do my psychopathic shit, it won't be quite as bad. Now I'm taking it to an extreme, but that's what we're looking at. When we had monopoly capitalists and fucking people dying at the meat plant, that's what the fuck it was. When there's Bangladeshi people dying in a fucking building collapse because they don't use good shit, because there's no such thing as government rules for contractors, and like 3,000 people fucking die while they're sewing your fucking t-shirts for nothing, right? So you can buy them at Walmart, like he said. Once we lose our manufacturing jobs, once we lose all our labor rights, once we can't fucking afford shit, guess what? Those guys that took all our fucking, they didn't take our jobs. Your capitalist fucking shepherds went and did that, moved your job away. Now you can't afford to buy shit other than from where the job that you used to have sells it back to you for cheap. And then eventually you can't afford that either. And then you go into debt, just like the Irish guy was talking about, right? That's the world we live in. Okay, one thing I want to close with, because I know we're going a little bit long, is something about stupid. And I know people think that's like ad hominem, ad hominem attack, like basically an attack on the person, or going to the person instead of to the point. And is there any way you can zoom in on that a little bit for me?
Can we?
I don't know if you can. I think you can. Yeah, that down there on the very bottom. There's my magnifying glass.
Yes, there it is.
So I'm gonna read you this comment that I saw about someone was talking about. I don't remember who it was. I know. So I'm not trying to. I think people misunderstand because they are so used to being vitriolically against some opposition party, another person with this made up set of bullet points that they got off like MSNBC or Fox News or something to tell you that this is how that person thinks. So you automatically assume. So when I say labor rights, they're like, oh, you're fucking liberal, left, you're liberal, and da-da-da, Hillary Clinton, you want to be a communist. I'm like, what the fuck are you fucking talking about, you psycho? I just think we should have labor rights. You're like, oh, you're fucking against the Second Amendment and this and that. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Well, why don't you go back to your basement, you fucking socialist millennial. I'm like, dude, I'm fucking 40, and millennials are like in their almost 30s, some of them. The fuck are you talking about? And I'm not even in my basement, and I'm fucking trying to start a business selling my fucking art, which most of these commenters could not even fathom ever. Because if they tried at all to think about that, their nuts would shrivel up if they're a dude to be gone.
Hurt.
And if they're ladies, they're just going to sit there, and I don't know what the ladies would do. Ladies, comment on what they do. I just know that if it's a dude, his nuts would shrink up if he tried to do what I'm doing right now, because it sucks ass.
Don't fuck the guy whose nuts have shrunk up
and
fall off.
Because that's those dudes. Hey, and that goes back. That next episode remind me about the power of women to shape society and the incels and their bitching asses and fucking Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
Fuck Jordan Peterson. Dude.
Fuck
yeah. So if you're a Jordan Peterson fan, watch me fucking rip him up.
Tune in Wednesday.
Yeah, we'll talk about Jordan Peterson. I'm not gonna rip him up, but there's a couple.
Fuck him up.
There's a couple concepts that are like fucking so stupid. Like he wants to, make sure, like, do some type of forced monogamy, or basically really. I mean, we already are pretty monogamous as it is, but like to make sure that there's a bond between one man and one woman, so there's more equal distribution of sex. Because right now, the hot dudes are getting all the fucking pussy, and all the incel idiot dudes or whatever they are. I don't know who they are. I don't want to judge them all. But these guys aren't getting enough pussy, and that's not fair. That ain't right. Because in the patriarchal society, men should get pussy when they want pussy. Go watch him. If you don't believe me, go fucking listen to. I think he said something along those lines. He doesn't say pussy. He uses big words to basically say that there's an unequal distribution of sex. That we need to have a more somehow enforced monogamous culture and setup so that you can redistribute sex. But Lord forbid you ask for You know, he comes from fucking Canada too, to get state-sanctioned healthcare or some shit. Oh, well, now you're talking about equality of outcome, and we can't talk about equality of outcome. You just have to be able to opportunity to get it, but not the actual outcome. Because that's just Marxist. That's just postmodernism, and that's what the left wants to do. And no one, insane. Anyway. But that leads me to this next point. On stupid is what I call it. The person that wrote this was commenting on someone else that was trying to refute some bullshit that some Trump supporter put on some thing. I don't remember what the original shit was about. But this response, it summed up the phenomenon I see all the time. Now, it's not just the Trump people. Mostly, I mean, if you still, if you still support Trump right now, then you're this. I'm sorry, you're what I'm about to describe.
This is you.
I'm about to describe you. Now, even if you're a Hillary supporter, honestly, if you're a Hillary supporter, this might be you too. I mean, it probably is. And I'll get into that a little bit more, a little deeper, because I mean, there's all that shit from the right, not all of it, but there's a lot of truth in the shit from the right the people who criticize the Clintons and that whole apparatus and the whole elitist structure. There's truth to that. There's truth to the Trump shit too that they want to ignore. Or like, oh no, he's just running laps around. You're just too stupid to understand Trump, because Trump's so stable genius that he'll blow your fucking mind, man. If you try to think like Trump, it'll make your brain bleed and like you just go unconscious. Like that's the kind of mentality we're working with some of these folks. I mean, I've seen them comment on I follow right-wing sites. I troll them sometimes, but I also follow them, and just to see how are the folks that believe in these things reacting to these things. And I'll tell you what, if you've never tried it, if you're a leftist or whatever you identify as, and you're not a Trump supporter or not a whatever world that is, MAGA shit, if you're not that, go check it out. Check out some of those posts. Go find one that's dedicated, not a troll page, because I swear there's a couple places that I think are put together as right-wing sites, but are really troll sites troll right-wing people. But the right-wing people still bite it and they love it. And now I've also been trolled by it because I put refuting comments on the troll page. But I think I've realized, in time I've realized, but I don't know if there really are or not. Because if you look at it's peak internet.
Yes. Or
peak internet forum where you don't know if someone is serious or not, if they're trolling or they're trolling the troll, or what. We have now reached a point where the data and information will grow exponentially and the meaning will drop exponentially.
Yeah.
There'll be a point where everything is meaningless, but everything is available. That is the dichotomy we live, the contradiction that's making people fucking go insane. And I don't doubt that it has something to do with the suicide rates. Not just that. That's one of like 100 crazinesses, madnesses, the contradictions, dichotomies that don't make fucking sense in the place we live. The reality. Like, I'll give you one just real quick. Stupid example that we live with every day. The whole perception is reality, stupid phrase. Number one, perception, not reality. I've said this before. Earth was perceived as flat. It's not fucking flat. Flat earthers. Lots of stuff was perceived one way or another. They thought that fucking the health was done through the ether. Right? That was the perception. It was wrong. It wasn't reality. Oh, but it was their reality. Who gives a fuck? You're giving people license to be stupid and not explore?
Yes.
How stupid? What kind of stupid philosophy is that?
A stupid one.
Yes. And on the same time, what do we tell people all the time about looking at somebody? And Like Mark Zuckerberg walking through Walmart. Would you be able to tell that it was Mark Zuckerberg? Necessarily? Or I mean, not Mark, that he was rich. Let me take that back. Right? What's the cliche about him? Wearing his hoodie, he's multi-billionaire or whatever the money he has, and he just wears like plain clothes. You can't judge a book by its cover. Wait, so it's perception reality, or we can't judge a book by its cover? Which the fuck is it? We live in a society where they want both. You should snap judge everybody. Don't judge them by what you snap judge. The fuck? We are living in a abusive relationship with society right now. No fucking wonder people are going nuts and hating life.
Yeah.
I saw E-Trade ad.
Okay.
Right? How fucking ridiculous is this? Hey, maybe you guys seen it. This chick or woman is in this coffee shop or some shit. It's all dreary. It's cold, probably in the morning. I don't know. It looks like it. Or evening or something. It's dreary. It's all grayed out. All the colors are muted. And she's looking at her Instagram. Of course, the Instagram is vibrant, and it's about her friend. And we probably could find this commercial at some point. Maybe I'll show it another time. And her friend is doing all these Instagram shit and, goat yoga and this and that bullshit, stupid. Sunsets are always beautiful. Don't you envy her? The narrator's saying, but you wish your life was more like this friend of yours. And you wish this was more like, don't you wish your life was more like this? But it would be better if you not only looked as good and had the Instagram life as good, but also made more money. Wouldn't that be great? Contact us at E-Trade.
It would be dope.
But I mean, what kind of fucking message is that? We live in a world of fake shit that's presented to us constantly, and we are trying to live up to these fucking weirdo standards that somebody made up. And now you have, that's just an example of the continual propaganda that's always been used since Edward Bernays invented propaganda, to use your own feelings to sell shit.
He also said the earth was flat.
I don't remember Bernays saying. I don't think he said the earth was flat.
Said it.
Well, if he did, he would have been able to put together the propaganda to, in fact, I don't believe he said that, because otherwise we would all believe the earth is flat.
You know what? You shouldn't believe that he said it.
Well, okay, so the other thing,
I'm just talking stuff.
People should look at Edward Bernays, though. If you don't know about Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud, used a lot of what Freud learned to manipulate, right? Okay, so last thing, and then we're going to close up. So what are we on? Are we on this? Oh, we got this. Okay, so research requires effort. So strike one. Stupid people don't do effort. It's that simple. Opinions will always substitute for lies. Strike two. They are not lying. They're simply stating an opinion, quote unquote, right? Stupid people will then invoke the First Amendment to divert attention from reality so they can play the make-believe victim, quote unquote, of free speech oppression when they actually want free reign to lie all day. And that's the other thing. There is a group of people who are totally fine lying. Like, they don't give a fuck.
Earth is flat.
That they're just fucking lying. Why would you do that?
Because the earth is flat.
I just don't get it. Like, I mean, that's one of the things that I think that people used to back in the day. They would get so fucking you're accusing me of lying? That's my integrity. What else do I have? But my word is bond, right?
Attack my Saiyan pride.
Exactly. Yeah. And now you get a group of people that they just lie about shit, and it's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just gonna lie.
The hell do you think you are, Kakarot?
It's just, it doesn't make sense. And they will lie to subvert a message. They'll lie to prevent to prevent themselves from admitting something. They'll lie by omission and stuff like that. They'll say stuff like, well, I've never heard Trump say anything that wasn't real. Literally, they'll say that shit on air. It's like, what the fuck? Or I was talking, like, I was on a Facebook straight Facebook debate, fight, whatever you want to fucking call it.
I heard trolls.
Trolling each other. I mean,
Yeah.
someone was trolling my post, or I was trolled
Like
theirs.
the Earth being flat.
Something like that. And they brought up my employment and what I did working in the oil fields. And they made up all these stories and shit. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. If you want to label me because of my beliefs, call me a liberal, call me this, call me a libtard, or I don't know, whatever shit you want to call me. I don't even identify as a liberal, because those guys, I mean, there's a lot of bullshit about the liberal position, and we'll go into that later. But to just lie about the work I did, like, for instance, if you're working with somebody, or like on anything, if you were a coworker with somebody and they just had different views as you, would you shit on the work that they did necessarily? But they're willing to do that. In fact, they're willing collectively to do that. And I'm not saying that like I was like some, I'm just talking about in this particular situation. I'm not talking about like me being like all that great or whatever, but to be flat out lying about whether or not someone did something well or did this or that or whatever. God, weird shit. Anyway, victim is free speech. It doesn't matter if they, and also it doesn't matter if they understand or not. They don't need to understand that you're making a difference between capitalism and free market. That doesn't matter, because on stupid, strike 3. They don't need to understand. They simply do not care. They will, or nor will they spend the effort to understand. Understanding the subject matter is not required to lie. You do you need to understand how your car's engine works to be able to turn it on? It's the same with lying. It helps to know something to make the lies believable, but it is not required. So they will not spend the effort to understand.
Earth is flat.
That's right. There you go. Some months ago, a meme was being passed around Facebook indicating that the governor of California is requiring Arabic numerals in public schools to support Sharia law.
That would be so cool.
After being told, that's all those Arabic numerals. Oh my God.
Oh my Lord.
Oh God. After being told that the meme content is fake, a Trump supporter proceeded to lie.
Oh Lord.
Claiming that she already knew it was fake.
Oh, did she?
Oh yes. Because she realized it was fake because she knew the Arabic numerals. She knew that Arabic numerals aren't real.
Oh, they're not real.
Not real. Right? For those who did not attend any math classes from 1st to 12th grade,
First
right?
to 12.
Or
Big gap.
right?
Window.
A simple Google search, right? Even if you didn't learn math and learn about that, right? About the numbers.
Siri? Don't that bitch know
Arabic
everything?
numerals, or if you did a simple Google search for Arabic numerals, okay, let me back up. Hold on. For those who did not attend any math classes during their 12 years of schooling, a simple Google search for Arabic numerals would have sufficed. But she obviously did not do that. Remember, stupid people don't do effort. And she knew she didn't bother to look anything up. She did not care. It did not stop her from lying.
She didn't even ask Siri. Siri
Exactly.
could have looked it up for her.
It could have been done easily by simply asking Siri. Did not even do that. And also leveled the lie at the end of the day. That's what we're dealing with, people. Don't be that. Don't be that.
Please don't be that.
Let me close on one thing. I grew up in a conservative household. My dad's staunchly conservative. That's the world I knew. And as I grew up, it made me realize, I saw things in the world. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't jive with what he's saying. And then I would ask him a question about it, and it would turn into this whole like diatribe, and then you get all mad about something. I'm like, okay, well, I can't talk to him about this stuff. And so over time, I began to look at things, and I was pretty right wing for a while because a lot of people are respected and looked up to would say the stupid crap like, oh well, when you're young you're a socialist, and when you grow up you become a capitalist. It's just that's the way it is.
Oh wow!
Because you have ideals as a kid, you want to share, and everyone's equal, but then you realize everyone's really shitty, and that you should shit on everyone else, otherwise someone else will shit on you. So that's how the world goes around, guys.
What chapter of the Bible is that in?
That's all. I don't know. It's probably I don't know. I don't even remember how Bible nomenclature works. It's in the book of shit and line shit 12 through 15.
Gotcha. I'm very familiar.
Right. It doesn't fucking matter. At the end of the day, what it really was as I stopped superficially thinking of the base concept and started thinking of what's the ramification of reality that this lives in, that's when shit started really becoming clear. And when I started my business, I'm like, fuck, this is tough to do. Not everyone can hack this shit. Not everyone wants to go through that sacrifice, and not everyone can. They don't want to because they can't. It's like saying everyone can make an amazing painting. Like everyone can do amazing, crazy levels of math. There's certain people that got a knack for it. And there's certain people that don't. If you have a knack for extracting from other people, that's not necessarily something you should be rewarded for. But yet here we are. It's like if you have a knack for doing clandestine, illegal things like selling child porn, hey, if you have a knack for that, you can get real rich, right? There's a problem. And we need to talk about the problem, right? And you can say, well, it's freedom and do. Okay, right? And we should have rules and blah, blah, blah. But then, and again, anyway, it becomes a crazy thing. So I want to leave you with that. Don't be stupid. Make sure that you're open to these ideas when just because someone, but here's the thing. If someone says some psychopathic shit, like, yeah, it's okay to like rip people's kids away from them because they shouldn't have broken the law. Well, you know what? Next episode, I'll show you the Joe Rogan clip. If you haven't seen the Joe Rogan clip already, talking about what's it called? About like the big part was you see a Guatemalan woman who'd come to America in 3-month trek to get here and is at the border with her kid and is running from whatever's happening in Guatemala right now. And ICE agents or whoever, DHS or whoever is taking the kid this way and the mom this way, and they're freaking out. And there's this visceral, guttural, like primal scream coming from the woman, like they're taking the child away. And the same kind of scream is coming from the child. And if you're standing there and you just cross your arms and say, well, they shouldn't on themselves. Yeah, well, they shouldn't have they shouldn't have broken the law. We are a nation of rules and law. They should not break the law. Therefore, they should lose their child.
How dare they?
You're just not on the same fucking team. You're not on the same team. That's what he said. Those are his words. I fucking agree. You're not on the same team. You're a psychopath. Period.
World Star Island.
Go to Misfit Island, World Star Island, and go have at it in your own fucking little hellhole that you want to live in.
It up,
let your children be taken from you for any fucking infraction you ever fucking do. Right? Oh, well, if you get put in jail for breaking the law, then your children are separated. Fucking stupid. Well, yeah,
is that a real argument?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's a real argument these idiots say. I mean, I keep calling them idiots and stuff, but that's an idiotic position. I mean, it's not that I'm trying to insult them. It's like me saying, oh, you're a man. If you're a man. Is that an insult? Or like, oh no, maybe that's a little too simplistic. It's like me saying, hey, you're crushing the flowers because you're standing on flowers. And then you getting pissed off and saying, whoa, well, you didn't have to say it like that.
Are you calling me fat?
But yeah, right. No, you're standing on flowers. If you could move over this. Well, I wasn't doing any of the flowers. I didn't mean it. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm not. Well, you don't have to insult me about where I'm standing on the flower.
I thought this was America. I guess
Like, no, you're being an idiot right now. So just stop being an idiot.
I feel like that is an insult to actual idiots.
Yeah, man.
Let's
It
think
might
about
be
it
that
way.
bad. It might be that bad. An insult to the idiot.
Toast to that one, my friend.
Toast to that. And on that note, we will close today's Sunday Sesh. Great Sunday Sesh, I thought. Leave your comments if you hated it. Put it in the YouTube comments, Facebook too, if you want. But I don't even know if you're on Facebook and you're commenting. I don't even know what you're saying because I can't see it. I can see YouTube. If you don't like that, I can't see it. Then contribute to the Patreon that's in the
it's in the link
in the about in the YouTube,
about.
and we'll put some on some of these the shows anyway.
You know what I'm saying?
I would love to do a daily. It would be nice to have daily topics
God,
to
that
go
would be
over.
so dope.
I can't afford to do that. Starving artist mode. I have a mortgage that has to be paid because of time, right? And that's something I don't have time or money.
And the capitalists.
I could use both. I could definitely use both. Yeah. So we got a couple comments here and there.
A couple comments. Louis V, what's up, brother?
Yeah, Louis V. Thank
Ty
you.
Grant.
All
hello.
these guys. Yes, thank you all for watching.
Yeah.
Those of you guys who tuned in live, even if you're even if it's on the archives,
Especially if it's on the
especially if it's
archives.
I mean, that means you went and found it.
You know?
Went and
And
found
how
it.
special are you?
It
Thank
wasn't
you.
just
How
because
lucky are we?
right. It wasn't just because I spammed you with some ad or like or Facebook spammed you with my Facebook live feed. Anyway,
No, that's not why.
no, yeah, right. Anyway, find it. Find more episodes, support
you
it.
You want to.
And if you have a topic you want to address with a Boyd, if you want to be on the Boyd, even if you are on if you were in a faraway place, not in Duval, right? If you're not in Duval, you can Facebook message. Yeah, Facebook Messenger works. You can even video call if that's what you want.
We have technology.
We do have technology. And then you can also, that's about it. Live comments on YouTube, or you can call in. I don't think or we could Skype, I
I
guess.
appreciate the ones that show up on Facebook, but I would love it so much more if you came
Yeah.
through on Facebook,
YouTube.
shouted us out, and then came to hang out with us.
Yeah,
on
really,
YouTube.
YouTube's where
Get
we're
a
really
part of the
doing this thing.
conversation. We play good music.
Exactly.
here.
Yeah, producer TJ. I need a producer TJ cam. That's probably the first goal. I don't even know how much is a webcam nowadays. $20. Look, I need $20.
Come on, now.
To-
You know y'all want to see this.
Patreon people, or there's a PayPal link in the about on YouTube. Dump $20 so I can get a TJ cam, producer TJ cam, so we can switch back and forth. That'd be cool.
You know,
To
I make
do.
funny faces.
Goals. Hashtag goals.
Hashtag goals.
All right.
Hashtag bring G4 TV back.
Also, I'd like to expand a little bit and have a automotive and / mechanical feed. So where I can outline sort of like how to do simple procedures, like, I don't know, cleaning a carburetor or something like that. Or working on something, just detailing some work. I'd love to start opening up some dialogue with that on a separate channel. Also,
start hitting up Cars and Coffees too.
yeah, man. So
Producer
that
TJ got a channel too, y'all.
exactly.
He can
Producer TJ got a gaming channel. What's your channel? We should put a link in the description.
We'll do that. But if you're listening, it's TJ Triforce.
Boom. TJ
Triforce.
Triforce. There you go. And then also, I'd love to start a hip hop channel as well.
We all do that.
Yeah, I mean, because I'd love to get your thoughts on evolution of hip hop if you're a hip hop fan, and just to talk about how things was.
Evolution of hip hop. Actually, shout out to the evolution of hip hop.
Is that
My man Jimmy Beams from back home.
aha? There you go. There you go. All right.
I
Well,
had to get you in on one of the
Shout
hip-hop
out,
sessions,
shout out.
sir.
and also big shout out. Not a shout out. I just want to plug something.
No
The-
love for the
Right, new single coming out
plug.
in a couple years. Oh, The Natural is still available. So if you caught the little mini ad from last session, still available if you want a motorized bicycle. That is one of my latest projects I'm trying to get out.
I think
All
it's
right.
the coolest one so far.
I think it's
That's
pretty
just
cool.
my opinion.
That's just the beginning too, but I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it because the market is sort of fickle, but
maybe if we get some more fans,
yeah, I mean, it'd be
get
great.
some people checking us out.
It will be great. But I think we got some really deep topics, a lot of cool stuff I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say? But yeah, just put in the comments what you thought about what we covered, or what you want to talk about, or if you have any questions, anything like that.
Is producer TJ an idiot for saying that the Earth is flat? Is he not? Is he right? Is he wrong? Who knows? Is he even serious? Who knows? Is this guy a troll? Is he here?
Knows exactly. In fact, we also need a TJ cam, or a TJ mic. So if you know how to do that, or excuse me, not know how to do that, but if you want to help us achieve that goal, #goals, please.
More hashtag
do that. Exactly. Oh, the music is on a little bit.
Yeah, it's on a little bit.
Only a little bit.
You know how I do it.
Exactly.
Give them a little bit to ride out to.
Yes. So please keep tuning in, and we'll be back on Wednesday with a live show. I have a guest, very special guest, Sean Blackwell, a guy that you guys don't know, but you will know on Wednesday. We're going to talk about some Middle Eastern stuff.
Ooh.
Really cool story he's got, and we'll see how deep we get. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm just going to leave it open.
Well, you guys,
tell you what.
Go ahead.
I'll give you a tiny bit of his story. Tiny. He is a former Army service, Army member, Army veteran, spent time in Iraq, fell in love, married an Iraqi woman, caught massive shit, and there was a book written about him, or he wrote a book. I don't remember, and a movie.
Really?
He can tell you about that. Maybe I wasn't supposed to share that. But anyway, so
I know I'll be here Wednesday. What are you guys gonna do?
Exactly. You guys got to tune in on Wednesday, right? Or put some comments down and think about some things that you want to ask. And as the week goes by until Wednesday, I'm going to check all the comments. And I'm going to ask them these questions.
Just hit us up. If you find these videos post live stream, just comment. If you have a thought.
Yeah, I'll
just
go back and find that comment, and we'll talk about it.
We double back. We triple back.
That's what this show's about. It's like a massive conversation between all of us.
It's just between us, y'all. It's us.
It's like, I'm just that sort of vector in a way. I don't even know if it's that much. I mean, you guys can read the comments for yourself, so you don't even need me, really, at all.
Y'all can have it out amongst yourselves.
Yeah, right. You just comment. In fact, you'd be like, you can Facebook message in and just talk to each other.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. Anyway, whatever.
The one of you could talk about how producer TJ is right about the Earth being flat, and the other one can talk about how I'm an idiot.
There are proofs out there.
There are proofs. Like brush them tooths.
Carl said, look at Carl Sagan, Cosmos. He goes through he's wearing his elbow patches and a turtleneck.
Cosmos, is that the Neil deGrasse Tyson?
No, the OG Cosmos.
The OG
Carl
one.
Sagan. And
Carl Sagan.
He's walking around in the freaking desert. And this is a testament
Why would he do that? Why wouldn't he use this segue?
It's a testament to climate change because he's wearing like a corduroy jacket with leather patches and a turtleneck and like freaking Syria or something like that, so that he can tell you about how somebody, like some old ancient person, stuck a rod in the ground and compared the shadow there to some place in like, I don't know, Alexandria or something like that. And
that's
like,
Virginia.
Wait a minute, the shadows are different. The Earth must be round.
Earth is flat.
And even back then, they calculated the circumference of the Earth back in like the ancient times. You know, like what's that guy's name? I don't
Andre
remember
the
his name.
Giant.
I might find it later. And they figured that out. But yet today, with all of the knowledge at hand, how big is the flat Earth movement?
Oh, it's pretty big over here with producer DJ. Let me tell you.
And that, friends, if you've ever seen that stupid statement, and it is stupid, the stupid statement that says, in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. Your ignorance sometimes could be because you just don't understand what's in front of you. How about this?
That sounds like a Toyota Prius bumper sticker idea.
No doubt, right?
Right.
Like it's like you've ever watched Crouch Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
And we all know you have. Don't lie.
and if you haven't, you missed out on like
What the fuck?
Americana, which is ironic.
That's very, very. Yeah, it is.
It's not really Americana. Well, I don't know.
No,
Anyway,
it is. It is.
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
It's not happenstance.
When the what's was she a princess or something? The bad girl.
We can call her a princess.
I don't know. She's like a high level. I don't remember. It's been a while. The
bougie bitch
point.
with the eye makeup.
Yeah, the one. Yeah.
Bougie bitch.
But she's like she can fly and do all the crazy stuff.
Yeah, they all.
Yeah, and that. Well, not all of them.
No. That's why I stopped.
Only certain.
There was like 4.
Only if you trained at the mountain and from some special person, you learn how to fly.
If you were one of the characters in the story that had a name.
Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
But anyway, so the point is, Jade Fox is teaching what's her name, the young girl, but the young girl comes from aristocracy, so she learned how to read, whereas Jade Fox didn't, and so she never learned how to read. So, but Jade Fox had access to the same books that Homegirl had access to, but she didn't read and only learned from the picture. And the aristocracy girl learned from reading, and so she had access to it, but was still ignorant. And the other girl had access to the same thing, but was not ignorant. We live in the same paradigm times a billion, zillion, infinities.
Because the internet is quite the motherfucker.
Good fucking luck, because we are now all Jade Fox.
We're the green destiny, y'all.
Yeah.
Somebody need to find it. We need some hope,
Fucking
goddamn
Jade
it.
Fox in our ass. All right, it's been the boy. Deuces.
Peace.